Hello, this is Killican, and if there's one American historic figure done grievously wrong by historic revisionism, it's Christopher Kit Carson. Mostly in the 1990s when idiot professors, idiot students, and idiot tourists who think they know what they're talking about hurled accusations of racism at him. One Navajo Indian actually went as far as to call him a butcher. First off, that's rich coming from a tribe that was the biggest dealer in the Native American slave trade, which, by the way, existed centuries before Christopher Columbus ever so much as picked up a compass. And Carson defeated the Navajo without even firing a shot. But then again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get to know the man a little bit better, shall we? Born on Christmas Eve, 1809, 1 year later, his Revolutionary War veteran father moved the family from Richmond, Kentucky to Boone's Lick, Missouri, where his earliest playmates included Sac and Fox Indian children, teaching him early on that each tribe was distinct in language and culture, and that a little bit of understanding would go a long, long way. But alas, friendship is fickle. In 1814, British fur traders convinced the Sac and Fox Indians to join them in retaking their former colonies. Sac and Fox braves ambushed Kit's father, shooting his rifle in half and blowing 2 fingers off his left hand. While Kit quickly learned the dangers of Indians on the warpath, he never let himself devolve into straight-up bigotry. In the summer of 1835, Kit fell in love with and married an Arapaho girl named Singing Grass, but not before saving her from being sexually assaulted by a French-Canadian trapper and then killing him in a duel. The following year, Kit jumped to the rescue of a Blackfoot family who wandered into camp thinking it was one of their own. Him, Bridger, and 2 others refused to allow any violence against them and escorted them safely out of the camp, which was a huge deal because the Blackfeet were trappers' mortal enemies. They were known for brutally murdering any whites who stepped on their territory. If they were white people, they'd be in danger of being called racist xenophobes. After Singing Grass tragically died of a fever, Carson's second marriage to a Shawnee girl was short-lived. She took exception to having to care for another woman's children. Thankfully, his third wife, Josepha, a wealthy young Hispanic woman, later accepted Kit's first daughter into the family. In summer of 1864, just days after Klamath Indians traded tobacco peacefully with his party, about 20 of them snuck into his camp late at night and murdered his good friend Basil in his sleep. Alerted by the noise, Kit shouted everyone awake and fought off the Indians. The next morning, with 3 of his old friends dead, he recognized the dead braves as Klamaths, and their dead leader's weapon as an English-made hatchet. Remembering what happened to his father in the War of 1812, Kit furiously led an attack on the Klamath village, and burned it along with their year's supply of food. In the 1850s, as a federal Indian affairs agent, Kit sided with his longtime friends, the Utah tribe, against their longtime enemy, the Navajo tribe, whom he blamed for most of the trouble between the 2 tribes. After Kit helped to drive the Texan Confederates from New Mexico in 1862, the region's military governor, General James Carleton, the one who really deserves the title Butcher, ordered Carson to round up all Mescalero Apaches who had just helped them fight off the Confederates, shooting all adult males on sight and taking the women and children to the soon-to-be infamous Basque Redondo. Thankfully, Kit disregarded the kill-on-sight order and forced Carleton's hand by accepting the entire tribe's surrender. Despite Carson's insistence that the Confederates were the real enemy, Carleton insisted on defeating and interning the Navajos for education in modern farming, which he insisted was the only way the Navajos would survive in the increasingly industrial times. Carson reluctantly obeyed. He gave the Navajo a chance to surrender. They refused. He then sent his volunteers, almost entirely Hispanic, to guard all freshwater sources in Navajo territory, and burned their famous peach orchards, starving and dehydrating them into surrender, and escorting them to Basque Redondo. Soon after arriving, Carson defied yet another order by building a separate camp to house the Navajo's enemies and fellow inmates, the Choctaw tribe, preventing what could be described as a Wild West prison riot. And to make matters worse, Comanche raiders began attacking the camp in 1864, after having pillaged the Union supply wagons carrying food for the interned Navajos, contributing heavily to the food shortage and eventual high death rate of the camp. Carson then led a military campaign against the Comanche, but after a brave defense at the Battle of Adobe Walls, he was still unable to conquer them. After the Civil War ended, Carson gave the Inspecting General Sherman a scathing report on Vasco da Gama. Carleton was relieved of his command, and the Navajos were set free. Carson died shortly after his wife in May of 1868, and thus passed a real American legend, a trapper and a soldier who couldn't read or write but spoke at least a dozen languages, mostly Native American, and having once stated that most of the trouble between whites and Indians was the fault of whites, either for misunderstanding them or for pushing for some aggressive expansion. And there's the facts for you there, people, but please don't take my word for it. Pick up a history book and do your own homework. Thanks for watching. Please like and share. Don't forget to subscribe, and peace out.